Namaskar, Pranam. I welcome all of you once again on the platform of Pavitra, where it's a sincere effort that everyone who connects is healed internally and externally, mind, body, and soul. So that's how this month, being a very special month, we are trying to ask various wonderful speakers to come and enlighten us with how we can do better and serve better in this month. अजीब सा महीना है. इस महीने में चोर की पूजा होती है. चोर का महीना है. हृदय चोरी करता है, माखन चोरी करता है, वस्त्र चोरी करता है, ईगो चोरी कर लेता है. So waiting for him to steal all these things from us. And we have a wonderful speaker today to enlighten us on this topic of this most beautiful bhajan written by Bilva Mangal Thakur called Chaurashtakam. Our speaker of today, Chaitanya Lila Prabhu, has done his engineering from University of Delhi and IIT Kharagpur, and has worked with IT MNC at Mumbai. Thereafter, he decided to serve the society at large as a resident monk at Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir, Mumbai. So for the last 12 years, he's been actively involved in sharing the essence of our Vedic scriptures with others at a number of corporate, social, and educational enterprises. Both back at the temple, he also heads the temple IT department, along with assisting in youth outreach and the Kartik Yatra management. So we are really honored and grateful that you are here, Prabhuji. We welcome you at the platform of Pavitra, and over to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for your kind words. And it's my great fortune to be speaking on this platform and to share some of the compilations that I've made on this Purushottam Maas. So once again, I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So just like Mataji was mentioning that this is a very wonderful month, the Purushottama month, the Purushottama Maas, and all over the world, different parts of the world, devotees like to glorify Krishna in different ways and means. And today we'll be discussing about one similar glorification of the Lord, which is a very unique glorification of Krishna. So just to give you a brief understanding of how this Purushottama Maas, because this is kind of an extra month that comes in every 3 years. So it is explained that according to the lunar calendar, 1 year comprises of 355 days. The moon completes 1 year in 355 days, whereas according to the solar calendar, 1 year comprises of 365 days. So therefore, every 3 years, there is an extra month of these 30 days that is added as per the lunar calendar. And that is what is known as the Purushottama month, basically. And this is considered to be a very auspicious month. We won't go to the lot of details about Purushottam month because I guess Sri Sananda Dulal Prabhu has already covered that aspect. But then there are some activities which are recommended in this particular month, specifically worshipping Krishna by chanting his holy names, studying of holy literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, giving in charity, and offering ghee lamp, offering a deepa at the lotus feet of the Lord, and also glorifying Krishna. And it is this aspect of glorifying Krishna in different ways and means which very learned teachers of the past, the acharyas of the past, they have taught us. And we want and we aspire to follow in their footsteps so that we can also benefit from this aspect of glorifying Krishna. So it is explained that in the very beginning of Kali Yuga, when Srila Vyasadeva was compiling all the Vedic literatures, and he compiled the four Vedas, he compiled the Mahabharata, but still deep within his heart, he was feeling a sort of dissatisfaction. He was not feeling very happy in spite of having done such a great amount of endeavor in regards to compiling all these Vedic knowledge that were there. And with this heavy heart, he approached his spiritual master, Narad Muni. And Narad Muni came to his rescue. And Narad Muni, like a very expert teacher, exactly pinpointed the very root cause of dissatisfaction within the heart of Vyasadeva. And what was that root cause? Sri Narad Muni explained to Vyasadeva that yes, you may have compiled a lot of Vedic literatures, you may have compiled a huge, variety of Vedic knowledge in the form of the Vedas, the Mahabharata, but nowhere have you specifically and exclusively glorified the Supreme Lord in a very special manner. Because if we look at the Vedas contain all different aspects of good living, of dharma, of artha, of kama, of enjoying this world, of facilities for enjoyment, about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. But then, in none of these shastras had he actually glorified the Supreme Lord in an exclusive manner. So, upon being hinted by Narad Muni, Srila Vyasadeva, he actually compiles the summary study of all the Vedas, the summary study of the Vedas in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is this Srimad Bhagavatam which is actually a very exclusive narration of Krishna's glory, a compilation of the case studies of different pastimes of the Supreme Lord, of different episodes of the devotees of the Supreme Lord, how the devotees of the Supreme Lord, they were under precarious conditions and how they took shelter of Krishna and they benefited in their ultimate sense. So it is this glorification of the Lord which brings true satisfaction within our own hearts. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mat chitta mat gata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Meaning, Krishna says that anyone who comes in the association of devotees of the Lord and relishes hearing pastimes about me, mat chitta mat gata prana bodhayanta parasparam, one who takes pleasure in enlightening one another about topics concerning me, there are two effects of such an endeavor. Tushyanti cha and Ramanti cha. Tushyanti refers to satisfaction and Ramanti refers to happiness. So anyone who relishes this activity of hearing about Krishna and sharing the glories of Krishna with others, they achieve a very deep sense of satisfaction within their own hearts. At the same time, they relish this pleasure within their own hearts. And if you look at the Mahabharata, you know, King Yudhishthir, after the entire Mahabharat war was over, King Yudhishthir actually was feeling very morose that it was maybe because of his desire to become the king that so many people had to live, and he was kind of feeling very dejected. But then Krishna actually takes him to Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev enlightens Maharaj Yudhishthir in the duties and responsibilities of a king. And Yudhishthir Maharaj, out of that whole, Bhishma Parva of Mahabharat, the essence that Maharaj Yudhishthir understands is that the foremost duty of a person in this world is to actually glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And towards that purpose, Maharaj Yudhishthir organizes this Rajasuya sacrifice. This Rajasuya sacrifice is a very elaborate sacrifice, a very elaborate yajna, in order to establish someone's supremacy. But then, whose supremacy was Maharaj Yudhishthir trying to establish? It was the supremacy of Sri Krishna himself. And by offering this first worship, the Agar Puja, to Sri Krishna, Maharaj Yudhishthir proclaimed before the entire world the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So, therefore, we see in the past, through the example of many devotees, that how they have been uh, endeavoring to glorify Krishna in different ways and means. We find so many glorification by different devotees of the Lord in the different places in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is the glorification by Lord Brahma himself in the form of prayers of Lord Brahma. There are the prayers of Kunti Maharani. There are the Hamsa Guhya prayers. Then there are prayers of Dhruv Maharaj, prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, prayers of Gajendra, the elephant who was caught by the crocodile and was in a very difficult situation. There is the prayers of Vritrasura. Then the prayers of demigods to the Supreme Lord within the womb of his mother Devaki. Then there are the prayers of the personified Vedas and the prayers of the queens of Dwarka. So look at the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is read with a very wide variety of prayers from different devotees. And each of these devotees, they not only relish, glorifying the Supreme Lord, but in their glorification, in their prayers, lie very deep lessons for us to understand and emulate in our own lives. So, and of course, it's not just these devotees from the scriptures, even the acharyas, the great spiritual teachers since time immemorial, they have been compiling a number of, songs and prayers in the glorification of the Supreme Lord. One of the names of the Supreme Lord is Uttama Shloka. Uttama comes from two words, Ut and Tama. Tama means ignorance, and Uttama means someone who is above ignorance, or in other words, someone who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature, the modes of goodness, modes of passion, and modes of ignorance. And shloka actually means reputation. So one who is or other one of the other meaning of the word uttama shloka is one who is glorified by choicest selection of words. One who is glorified in choicest poetry. He is known as Uttama Shloka. And there have been great acharyas who have written beautiful poetry in his glorification. Typically, we sing them as ashtakam. Ashtakam refers to a group of 8 verses which we sing in glorification of the Supreme Lord. So we have Adi Shankaracharya, one of the great acharyas, who composed the Jagannath Ashtakam, glorifying Lord Sri Jagannath in these 8 verses. Then another great devotee, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he composed Sri Sachi Sutta Ashtakam, glorifying the life and pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Sri Vallabhacharya, he wrote the Madhura Ashtakam, how the pastimes of the Supreme Lord are very madhur, very sweet. Srila Vyasadeva, he compiled the Damodara Ashtakam, glorifying the pastimes of the Supreme Lord as Damodara. And of course, there are many others. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he composed the Radhika Ashtakam. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he composed the Vrinda Devi Ashtakam. Srinivasacharya composed the Sad Goswami Ashtakam, and another great Acharya, whose name is Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur, he composed the Chora Ashtakam, just like Mataji was mentioning in the beginning, that one of the ways in which the Supreme Lord is glorified is as a thief. Now that may sound very amazing. How can you glorify someone, who is a thief, who is into thievery? But then, when it comes to the pastimes of the Supreme Lord can very well be glorified as even as a thief, the foremost of all thieves, not just a thief. So one of the names of the Supreme Lord is Chaur Agra Ganya Purusha, one who is the foremost of the thieves. So a general conception of the Supreme Lord is that of awe and reverence. The Supreme Lord is worshipped with a lot of awe and reverence in different traditions all over the world. But then this conception of the Supreme Lord is very unique because it is not available in any other culture except the Vedic culture. Because along with the greatness of the Supreme Lord, there is also the aspect of the sweetness of the Supreme Lord, the sweetest best. So people today, they are not even aware of the form of the Lord. What to talk of the activities and the nature of the Supreme Lord. But the entire devotional culture of the Vedic civilization has been centered around glorifying the Supreme Lord in different ways and means. So here in this particular Ashtakam, the Chora Ashtakam, Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur gives us deep insights into the beautiful, charming form of the Lord as an amazing thief. So we'll go through each of these 8 verses, the Chauragraganya Purusha Ashtakam as it is called, or even shortly as Chaura Ashtakam. So I've just kind of broken this entire thing into 4 parts. How the author or the poet has classified or has composed this particular ashtakam. So in the very first 2 verses, the poet has the poet is describing about the profile of this thief, how great this thief is, what are the different projects that the thief has worked on, what is the curriculum vitae of the thief, you know what are the different accomplishments of the thief. So the profile of the thief, Lord Sri Krishna himself, is enumerated in this particular verse, in the first 2 verses actually. The next 2 verses, the poet describes the expertise of a thief. Don't think that this thief is someone ordinary. This thief has got very extraordinary expertise, and we will look at what are those extraordinary expertise. And then going ahead in the 5th and 6th verses, the poet describes the action plan. What is his action plan to catch this particular thief? And the last 2 verses, the poet is enumerating what are the different security measures that he has in place to make sure that once the thief is caught, the thief doesn't escape. So the first 2 verses, the profile of the thief, how great the thief is. The next 2 verses describe the expertise of the thief. And the next 2 verses, the action plan to catch the particular thief. And the last 2 verses will discuss the security measures that the author has in place to make sure that once the thief is caught, he doesn't escape. So the very first verse, uh, which the poet explains, Vraje prasiddham navanita chauram gopangananam chadukula chauram aneka janmarjita papa chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham Namami. So the work experience, what has the thief worked on? What are his projects? What are his interested? What is this thief interested in? So the very first verse explains that this thief is famous in Vraja as the butter thief. Vraje Prasiddham. He is famous in Vraja as Navaneet Chauram. Navaneet refers to butter. Navaneet Chauram means the butter thief. Now, this personality is famous in Vraja as the butter thief. And believe me, the supreme personality of Godhead enjoys this pastime of stealing butter much more than any of his other pastimes, even much more than the role of playing God in this world. When Krishna descends in this world, he relishes the pastime of stealing butter much more than playing the role of God himself. And therefore, the problem in this world is everyone in this world, except for the Supreme Lord himself, everyone other than the Supreme Lord wants to play the role of God. But then here we see the Supreme Lord himself, he doesn't like to play God. He likes to play the part of a thief, the, the, the part of a fun loving, frolicking, and mischievous thief. And like all of us have heard since our childhood, being in India, you know, these butter stealing pastimes are one of the sweetest and most sung pastimes of Krishna. But the question is, why would Krishna steal butter? It is still a mystery because even Mother Yashoda couldn't understand. She had a lot of butter in her own house, but still she found Krishna wanting to steal butter from the houses of the other gopis. And it is said that Nanda Maharaj, he had something to the tune of 9 lakh cows, and Mother Yashoda used to prepare the butter from the milk of the best of those cows. I mean, the best of the best butter was available in the house of Nanda Maharaj himself. But then the very son of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda Nandana, Nanda Dulala, he was caught stealing butter from other people's houses. And there are many such pastimes. We don't have so much pastime. We could have an entire 1 hour session just on the pastime of Krishna stealing butter. Different episodes, so many different pastimes are there of Krishna as Makhanchor. But we'll just go through a few, maybe a couple of pastimes that one time Krishna was in the house of one of the gopis, and there was this huge tumbler containing butter, and the tumbler was a very shining one. And Krishna, he put his hand into the tumbler, and he takes out his hand, and he's about to lick that butter, he's about to taste that butter, that he sees his own image, his own reflection in that very shining pot. And Krishna feels as if he is caught, and he tries to do a negotiation with his own image, his own reflection. And he says that, looks like you have seen me stealing this butter, but then let me promise you, I won't consume all of this, alone. I'll share some of this with you as well. And when the owner of the house, the other elderly gopi, she's just watching from a distance this negotiation that is happening, that Krishna is actually doing with his own reflection. Just seeing that gives so much joy to the gopi. And it is explained that one time Krishna was caught red-handed by Mother Yashoda, and Mother Yashoda said, "Look, now you are caught." So Krishna very expertly he says, actually, you know what, Mother Yashoda, you give me all these tight bangles, and these bangles are so difficult for me, and my hand actually becomes very hot just by keeping on these bangles. So just to cool off my wrist, which have become very hard because of adorning these bangles, just to cool off these wrists, I had to dip my hand in this pot of butter. Otherwise, why would someone taste butter from someone else's pots? This butter is actually worthless, because look at these monkeys. These monkeys also, they don't even want to taste this butter. Why would I want to taste this butter? So Krishna was very actually expert in defending himself whenever he used to get caught. And many times even Mother Yashoda would go and apologize to the different gopis that I'm very sorry. She used to feel very very humiliated and very embarrassed, seeing that her own child, in spite of having so much of butter in her own house, her own child had been wanting to take butter from everyone else's house. And she used to apologize from the other gopis. But the other gopis used to say, actually, you need not speak that way, because we actually aspire. It is with that aspiration that we churn out butters in our homes, that this sweet little Krishna, he comes and steals this butter. So yes, Krishna is famous as Makhan Chor. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. Any of the pastimes of the Lord, they are not of this world. A thief in this world is not adored. A thief in this world is not glorified. But then, because these pastimes, Janma karma, the activities of the Lord, they are divya, they are transcendental. And therefore, he is glorified even as a thief. He is glorified as Ran Chod, a person who escapes and runs away from the battlefield. Still, he is glorified. So, that is the nature of the Supreme Lord. So, one may say that the activities of any child are sweet. What's so big about it? But then you don't sing the pastimes of the child, the childhood pastimes, once the child grows up. But then here we find glorifying Krishna, glorification of Krishna as a butter thief, as the Makhan Chor, even after 5,000 years now. And it is explained that, this is the purpose, this is the sole purpose for which Krishna actually performs these pastimes. Because if and only if we manage to we manage to keep our minds absorbed in thinking about these pastimes of the Supreme Lord, and if only our mind just kind of freezes, how could the Supreme Lord do so? That is the perfection of the human life. Just thinking about Krishna, how could Krishna behave that way? How could Krishna be the way he was? And relishing such sweet pastimes, if we are just able to continue this relishing all through our lives, that is the success of our life. So moving ahead, we'll see the second aspect, which he says, Gopangananam cha dukula chauram. He stole the clothes of the gopis. The Gopangana refers to the cowherd ladies of Vrindavan, and Dukula refers to the clothes. So Gopangananam cha dukula chauram. So Krishna stole the clothes of the gopis of Vrindavan. This is also a very famous pastime. But then, someone does that today, and there will be all sorts of allegations, and already the hash me too movement is very much in place, and there will be a lot of, the person will be in news. But then here it is explained, of course, at the time when Krishna performed these pastimes, they were all children. They were just 8 years old at that particular point of time. But then actually it is explained, the Shastras explain, the Srimad Bhagavatam explains that these gopis actually desired within the core of their own hearts to worship Krishna as their own husband, to have Krishna as their husbands in their life. And just in order to fulfill this desire of the supreme of these exalted ladies of Vrindavan, Krishna performed these pastimes. So yes, Gopan Gananamscha Dukula Chauram. Further, the second verse explains Sri Radhikaya Hridayasya Chauram Navam Buddha Shyamala Kanti Chauram Padashritanamscha Samasta Chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham Namami. So he steals the heart of Srimati Radharani. Yeah. So he steals the heart of Srimati Radharani. And not just he, but even Srimati Radharani steals Krishna's heart. So who is Srimati Radharani? It is explained she is none other than Krishna's own internal energy. And the energy is not complete without the energetic. Just like the sun is not complete without the sunshine, the sun is the energetic, and the sunshine is the energy of that energetic sun. And because Krishna is so attractive that he bewilders even Cupid, he is known as Madan Mohan. One of the names of the Supreme Lord is Madan Mohan. Krishna is known as Madan Mohan because वो मदन को भी मोहित कर लेते हैं. जो क्यूपिड होते हैं, कामदेव होते हैं, उनके मन को भी मोहित कर लेते हैं. There is a beautiful pastime. I mean, we'll run out of time if we get into all those beautiful pastimes. But Krishna's one of the name is Madan Mohan, one who enchants the love god Cupid. But Srimati Radharani, she attracts the mind of even Madan Mohan. And therefore, the name of one of the names of Srimati Radharani is Madan Mohan Mohini. So, in this way, the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna are actually the most exalted and most sublime of all topics that are described in the Shastras. And it's explained that unless and until one's heart is completely pure of any contamination, one will not be able to deeply appreciate these pastimes between Radha and Krishna. Nevertheless, it is very important for us to know the relationship between Krishna and Srimati Radharani of utmost purity and to glorify that relationship as such. Because Srimati Radharani is actually the best devotee in the entire creation. Nobody can be as good a devotee as her. Going ahead, Krishna describes, the poet describes one of the other project of the thief. We are describing about the profile of the thief here. So another profile of the thief is he's Navam Buddha Shyamal Kanti Chauram. So what are the different projects that he has worked on? He has stolen butter. He has stolen the clothes of the gopis. He has stolen the heart of Srimati Radharani. And then here it is explained that he has stolen the beautiful complexion of a newly formed monsoon cloud. He steals the luster of a fresh monsoon cloud. Now, Sanskrit is a very amazing language because in Sanskrit, many words are composed just out of just by combining different dictionary words. So, Nava Ambuda Shamala Kanti Chauram. So this is one adjective. Nava Ambuda. Ambuda means cloud. Nava Ambuda, a newly formed cloud. Nava Ambuda Shamala, one who is darkish rain cloud. Nava Ambuda Shamala Kanti. Kanti refers to the luster, the complexion of such a cloud. Kanti Chauram. And therefore, this is the name of the Supreme Lord, Navambuddha Shyamala Kanti Choram. So this thief has stolen the dark color of a freshly formed monsoon cloud. And therefore, one of the other names of Krishna is also Shyama Sundara. One of the great acharyas, Srila Jayadev Goswami, he gives another name to Krishna in one of his compositions, Srita Kamala Kucha Mandala Hai. And he explains, अभिनव जलधर सुंदर धृत मंदर है श्री मुख चंद्र चकोर जय जय देव हरे. He says in similar lines, he's explaining Abhinava Jaladhara. Jaladhara means a cloud, something that holds rain. Jaladhara. Jaladhara is a cloud. Abhinava means a newly formed cloud. Abhinava Jaladhara Sundar, very beautiful. Dhrita Mandara hai. Sri Mukha Chandra Chakora. Some one whose complexion is similar to a newly formed monsoon cloud. So this is also very perplexing to people in this world, because in this world we find people of all different complexions, yellowish, reddish, blackish, whitish. So many different complexions are to be seen in this world, but never have we ever seen a blackish blue person. In the earlier days, when the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada, he had gone to the Western world, and he was introducing Krishna. And in course of his introduction, he used to say that Krishna has a blackish blue complexion. And now that made news, and that made news, and this was like the talk of the town. The newspapers were publishing it, that here is a Swami who is advertising a blackish blue god. He's advertising a blackish blue god, and that made news all over. It's explained in Vrindavan, the friends of Krishna, many times they used to tease, Krishna, that, we look at your father and mother. Actually, you know what? Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, they have actually picked you up and brought you from a marketplace. You're not actually their child. Because as far as we can see, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, they are so fair in complexion, but you are so, your complexion is darkish. You are blackish in complexion. So therefore, it looks like you are not their actual child. And Krishna used to get so much pain hearing all this. And he used to run to Mother Yashoda complaining about this allegation that, his friends were putting on him. Now, this is the aspect, this is again a very sweet aspect of the Supreme Lord, that how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is complaining to his parents about this allegation that was put upon him. And of course, we can't afford to kind of deal with Krishna in this way, uh, because this is a vision of the intimacy and freedom that Krishna enjoys with his devotees in the spiritual world. Okay, I think we'll keep moving ahead. So, yes, the last profile, the last accomplishment, uh, yeah, we discussed this past time. Yeah, it is explained that Krishna, he is also known as, he is described as Aneka Janmarjita Papa Chauram. He steals the accumulated sins and sufferings of those who take his shelter. And therefore, it is explained that bhakti to Krishna is so nice. Anyone who renders this devotional service to the Supreme Lord, anyone who, with a great and deep feeling, serves the Supreme Lord, it is explained that one can relish that satisfaction right from the very beginning. And it is said that as soon as we take to this process of bhakti, our sins start to get destroyed. One of the great acharyas, Sri Rupa Goswami, he describes one of the characteristics of bhakti. And he says that one of the prominent characteristics of bhakti is Klesh Agni. you know each of us, we know that because of the sins committed in the past, there is a very deep impression of all those sins, and there is this fire of suffering that burns within the heart because of the sins committed in the past. And when one starts rendering service to the Supreme Lord, this fire of suffering starts getting reduced, klesh agni, you know and therefore one of the names of the Supreme Lord is Hari, one who steals everything once he comes into your life. Padashritanam cha samasta choram, all that is inauspicious in your life. But then, in exchange for taking all the inauspicious thing, he gives the supremely auspicious thing, and that is the loving devotion for himself. For that loving devotion, towards his lotus feet. And the author of this ashtakam completes this particular verse by offering his obeisances to such a thief. Chauragra Ganyam Purusham Namami. Now, the question here is, does a thief need to be respected? Does a thief need to be paid obeisances? But how do you deal with a thief? you know One time at our temple, many years back, there was this person who was caught stealing slippers, one chappal chore. And then, the moment he was found, so many people, of course, in the temple, people restrain from using their, physical power on, beating and all that stuff. But then when this thief was caught, all these hidden propensities, this was many years back, all these hidden propensities of the people in the temple, they just got out, and they gave him a very big thrashing. So yes, we know that, a thief is not to be excused, a thief is not to be let off. But then here we find the author is paying his respects. Chauragra Ganyam Purusham Namami. So this is about the profile of the thief, the very first two verses. We'll move on to the expertise of the thief. What is the expertise of the thief? Akinchani kritya padashritam yaha karoti bhikshum pathi geha hinam. Akinchana krita. Akinchana refers to one who renders you impoverished, one who renders you penniless. It is explained the Pandavas actually had to suffer so much when they were in exile. And one may question that, they were such exalted devotees of the Lord. Why did they have to go through it all? But then the Shastras explain that even though they were under, these such difficult conditions, akinchana kritya, they had nothing with them, but then they had this love for the Supreme Lord. Akinchana kritya padashritamya. So this is not a criticism of Krishna, that you make your devotees a homeless beggar, meaning they become completely renounced from the pleasures of the material world. No, it is actually, this means that people who take shelter of the Supreme Lord, they lose all taste for material enjoyment, and they develop this taste in serving the Supreme Lord. And this is exemplified in the life of the Pandavas. Further, it is said, यदीय नामापि हरत्य शेषम गिरि प्रसारान अपि पापरासिन आश्चर्य रूपो ननु चौर इद्रिक दृष्ट श्रुतो वा न मया कदापि यदीय नामापि हरत्य शेषम गिरि प्रसारान अपि पापरासिन. Mere utterance of his name relinquishes one of a mountain of sins. It is explained that anyone who chants the holy names of the Supreme Lord automatically gets relinquished of all sins. Now, getting rid of sins, this is not the purpose for which we chant the names of the Lord, but then this is just a byproduct. This is just an incidental byproduct, as they say. So, the real purpose of chanting the names of the Lord is to revive one's dormant love for the Supreme Lord, which has been forgotten for now. And once a person grows in his devotion, he doesn't even care whether his sins are there or not, because it is just understood that by just growing in devotional service, the sins are automatically taken care of. So it is explained that chanting not just purifies us, but all those who hear this chanting of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Lord himself, incarnated as his own devotee in this age of Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he inaugurated this Harinam Sankirtana, coming together and chanting the holy names of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the author is expressing his amazement at another thing. He's saying that this is such an astonishing thief. He has never been heard of. Drishta Srutova, such an astonishing thief, has never been seen or even heard of. Ascharya Rupo, Nanu Chaura Idrik, Drishta Srutova, Namaya Kadapi. This such an expert thief. And further he's saying, Dhanam cha manam cha tathendriyani. Mind you, this is such an expert thief that he will make you bereft of all the wealth that exists in the entire creation. He can steal all your wealth. I mean, beware before you surrender to this thief. Before you surrender to Krishna, he can steal all your wealth. And dhanam cha, manam cha, he can steal all your prestige. Now, it is explained that what is the wealth of a conditioned soul? The wealth of a person in this world that we live in is not what is, what are the accomplishments. The the most cherished wealth of a person in this material world is his identification that he is the Lord and Master of what he has in his possession. So, this ego of a conditioned soul to feel the controller, to feel the maintainer, is what is stolen by the Supreme Lord. A person comes to understand that his position, his eternal position, is that of a servant of the Supreme Lord. And it is this false ego that is stolen by the Supreme Lord. So it is explained that the very existence of a devotee is nothing but to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Dhanam cha manam cha tathendriyani pranams cha hitva mama sarvameva. This is what the author is praying, that pranams cha hitva mama sarvameva. This is what I desire, that all my life, let my entire material life be stolen by you. And then finally, the author is saying, Palayase kutra dhrito adya chora, where will you run away, O thief? Even though you may be very expert, but I won't allow you to just escape that way. Palayase kutra dhrito adya chora, tvam bhakti damnasi maya niruddha. I will wound you up. So the next phase of the poetry begins. What is the action plan to catch this thief? So the action plan is explained that, where will you now run away? I have caught you by the rope of my devotion. Palayase kutra dhrito adya chora, tvam bhakti damanasi maya niruddha. So this is explained in the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj, he wanted, of course, this is the pastime with regards to the wealth. Dhruv Maharaj wanted the wealth of a kingdom greater than his own father. And then it is explained that when he got the wealth of devotion to the Supreme Lord, he actually considered the wealth of a kingdom to be insignificant. So yes, we're discussing that the author is praying that how can you escape now? I'll catch you with the rope of my devotion. And this is glorified in the Damodar Lila pastime, that how uh, nothing else but love for the Supreme Lord can only bind the Supreme Lord. So devotion is actually a priceless jewel, and it is this jewel that Krishna is hankering for. This thief, this Chauragraganya Purusha, is actually aspiring for the jewel of the devotion of his devotees. And it is explained that Krishna is eager for that jewel, so much so that he is willing to give himself to the devotee to experience that love of his devotee. And in order to do so, he even doesn't mind becoming a puppet in the hands of his own devotees. It is explained that in his childhood, whenever Krishna used to cry as an infant, all the gopis used to come around him and they used to just clap, and they used to encourage Krishna to keep smiling, and little Krishna, he would just stop crying. And this small form of the supreme personality of the Godhead used to dance to the tune of the clapping of these gopis. This is the nature of the Supreme Lord, that one who is willing to surrender to the love and devotion of his devotee. And therefore, bhakti is also known as sudurlabha, something that is very rare, because Krishna won't just give this devotion cheaply, because Krishna has to give himself to the devotee who surrenders unto him. So therefore, he is very selective to whom he chooses to give his devotion, chooses to give his devotional service. And therefore, bhakti is also rare. It is not a very cheap thing. It requires a certain amount of desire. It requires a certain amount of endeavor, and it requires a certain amount of guidance by the experienced people on this particular path. It is not something that we, just like people in this world, we find that everyone says that hum bhi bhakti karte hain, we also have devotion within our hearts. But then as we understand the true nature of bhakti, we understand that it's a very, very precious piece of uh, a very precious commodity that the Supreme Lord is actually wanting. And therefore, he won't give unless and until he sees that sincerity, and he sees that honest desire to surrender to him. Going ahead, yes, the action plan. Again, the author is mentioning Chinatsi Ghoram Yamapasha Bandham. How will I keep you bound? Chinatsi ghoram yamapasha bandham, bhinatsi bhimam bhavapasha bandham, chinatsi sarvasya samast bandham, naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. That I will bound you by the ropes of my devotion. This is the action plan of the Supreme Lord. We are discussing about the Damodar Lila pastime. And the author is mentioning that you may be a very great expert at cutting the terrible noose of Yamaraj. Now, this is a very this picture may sound to be very terrifying, but it is explained that the laws of nature are very, very they're very strong. And it is explained that for every action there is a reaction that a person has to suffer. For good deeds he is awarded with good reactions, and for bad deeds, of course, there are agents. There are the good agents and there are the bad agents who facilitate that bestowing of the good experiences or the bad experiences. And the very name of Yamaraj, of course, it's a different thing whether we believe or we don't believe, but then it's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of understanding the reality from the scriptures, and it's a matter of taking the right steps so that we ensure a good experience in the times to come. So it is explained that yes, the ropes of Yama, those ropes of these Yamadutas, these fierce creatures that are there, it is very difficult to cut those ropes of Yamaraj. But then, for a person who actually surrenders to the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Lord is expert at cutting the terrible noose of Yamaraj. Chinatsi Ghoram Yamapash Bandham. So this is the pastime of a devotee whose name was Ajamil, who at the end of his life he had led a very notorious life, but then somehow due to some pious credit he had named his son as Narayan, and while leaving his body he just chanted the name Narayan, and he was given the benefit of doubt, and the agents of the Supreme Lord, the Vishnu Dutas, they arrived and they prevent the Yamdutas from taking him away. That's the story of Ajamil. So Ajamil, of course, then there is the Bhavapash Bandham. Bhavapash refers to the tight rope of material enjoyment. We find again, if you look all over the world today just encourages, the world today just propagates blindless enjoyment, just a hedonistic way of life, that just go out all through and just enjoy the way you want, the quantity you want to enjoy, but then definitely sooner or later there is a reaction that comes over. And then being in Mumbai here, we find, there is a big investigation that is currently going on, based on the kind of all these drug affairs that were happening in the city. And cases are being brought up from last 2 years, last 3 years. So people thought that they'll just commit something. They'll just enjoy in a certain manner. They may just consume all these prohibited drugs and narcotics. But then sooner or later, of course, one by one, so much of investigation is happening, and so much is in news basically. So this is bhavapash bandham. But even this bhavapash, this desire to actually go all out and just enjoy in this material world, this bhavapash, this entanglement of material enjoyment is also cut by the Supreme Lord. So Ajamila is praying here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Natah param karma nibandha krintanam mumukshatam tirtha padanu kirtanat नयत पुनः कर्मसु सज्जते मनो रजस्तमोभ्याम कलिलम तत्वन्यथा. He's saying that therefore one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods, such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, and meditation and mystic yoga, because even after following such methods, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. So, this is the prayer of Ajamil. Here is Ajamil who was caught by the Yamadutas, but he is admitting that there is nothing better in this world but to chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord. This is the another pastime which explains of Bhavapash Bandham, how the Supreme Lord takes away all material attachments. This is the pastime of Bali Maharaj. Vamana Dev, he appears before Bali Maharaj and he begs for 3 pieces of land. And Bali Maharaj, he says that, I can give you anything, just you measure anywhere you want. And Vaman Dev just expands himself as Trivikram, and with his 2 steps he covers the entire universe. And he asks that, I still have 1 step left. Where do I put that step? And upon hearing this, Bali Maharaj, he says that, yes, my dear Lord, you may have taken the possession of the entire universe, but still there is one thing which is yet to be surrendered unto you, and that is my material attachment. That is my identity as a king. And that is how Bali Maharaj offers his own head for the Supreme Lord Vamandev to put his feet on. So this is a very beautiful pastime once again of Bali Maharaj. And yeah, he says, so he says, Naivatmano Bhakta Kritam tu Bandham. The knot that is fastened by a devotee is simply too strong. The author is mentioning in the sixth verse of this beautiful composition, Chaurashtakam. He's saying, Naivat Mano Bhakta Kritam tu Bandham. One can, the Supreme Lord can cut all the ropes. He can cut the ropes of Yamaraj. He can cut the ropes of the material identity, the material attachment. But then he can't cut the rope that is tied by his own devotee. And this is the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. Small little Prahlad, just a 5-year-old child. He had so much of love for the Supreme Lord that that love within the heart of Prahlad, that rope of devotion, actually pulled the Supreme Lord to appear in a never seen before form as Lord Narsingadev himself. And Lord Narsingadev, he came just on the desire of Prahlad. There was no other reason. I mean, in order to just finish off Hiranyakashipu, he could have done in any way. He could have just given him a heart attack or something. But then, because Lord Brahma had promised Hiranyakashipu that, yes, I bless you, that may you not be killed during the day, during the night, may you not be killed by a human or by an animal, by some, so many different conditions Hiranyakashipu had sought from Lord Brahma. And just to respect that conditions that were put by his devotee Brahma, and just to uh, reciprocate to the loving devotion of Prahlad, the Supreme Lord appeared as Hiranyakashipu. So this is the beautiful pastime of Lord Narasimhadev that we see here. The last two verses we'll discuss today. The last two verses, the author is speaking. The seventh verse is saying, Man manase tamasa rasi ghore, karagrahe dukha maye nibadha, labhasva he chaura hare chiraya, sa chaura doshochitam eva dandam. So these are these two verses describe the security arrangements that the author has in place. The security arrangements, how once the thief is caught by the rope of devotion, what will ensure that the thief doesn't run away. So the poet is explaining that, the condition of my heart, man manasa tamasa rasi ghore, my mind and my heart is very dark because of ignorance. I don't know my real position, I don't know my eternal relationship with you. And therefore, and not just that, manamanasa tamasa, tamas refers to ignorance. So I am completely ignorance about my real duty. How should I be surrendering unto you, and how should I be serving you? I am ignorant of all these aspects, and therefore this is the condition of my mind, this is the condition of my heart. My heart is very dark and fearsome. And therefore, my dear thief, I will punish you within the deep recesses of my heart for all your thievery. Labhasva he chaura hare chiraya, swa chaure doshochitam eva dandam. I will put you behind the bars of my deep, and fearsome heart, and I'll actually imprison you within my own heart. This is the security arrangement that the poet has in place. So this is actually the pastime of the. So of course, the nature of a prison is that a prison is a very dark and fearsome place. Similarly, the author is comparing that his heart is very dark and is very fearsome because of the presence of a prison. Also has so many other kind of all these other thieves and rogues who are imprisoned there. So similarly, the poet is explaining that so many of these anarthas, so many of these weaknesses are present within my own heart, and therefore I want you also to imprison within therein. Within, I want you to be imprisoned therein. So this is actually the pastime of the poet himself. There is the, Srila Bilwa Mangal Thakur. It is explained. There's a beautiful life of Sri Bilwa Mangal Thakur. That how Srila Bilwa Mangal Thakur used to stay in Vrindavan as a mendicant, and he was blind. There is a story of how he got blind and all that. But then it is explained that when Bilwa Mangal Thakur initially he reached Vrindavan, he didn't know where to go. He had just heard about Vrindavan, and he actually wanted to experience Vrindavan, but then he couldn't see Vrindavan because he was blind. And it was then being pleased by the devotion of Srila Bilwa Mangal Thakur. It is explained that the Supreme Lord actually took the form of a small little boy, and he used to have conversations with Srila Bilawamangal Thakur, and he used to take Bilawamangal Thakur all over Vraja, taking him through the different, vanas, the different pastime places. And Bilawamangal Thakur used to converse with this child. And in the process of conversing with Krishna, he developed such a deep affection for this small little boy. And slowly and gradually, Srila Bilwa Mangal Thakur, he started to feel that maybe it is that Supreme Lord himself. And hearing about this experience of Bilomangal Thakur, hearing about this experience of Bilomangal Thakur, Krishna used to actually relish this devotion of Bilomangal Thakur. And when Bilomangal Thakur, he actually understood that he is none other but Krishna himself. At that point of time, Krishna, it is explained, Krishna, he leaves the company of Bilomangal Thakur and he goes away. And it was then that Srila Bilomangal Thakur, he composed these beautiful compositions, the Krishna Karnamrita, 112 verses. And he also composed the Sri Govinda Damodar Stotram, which we often sing, was also composed by Srila Bilvamangal Thakur. And it was then that Bilvamangal Thakur actually prayed this, that you may have left me, you may have left, left me, and you may not be carrying me and taking me around Braja now, but then please understand that I have now imprisoned you deep within my own heart. And this news of devotion, that is there, I will put this noose of devotion very tight around you, O thief. Here the thief is being punished, finally in the last verse, that I will put these noose of devotion so tight around you that you will just not be able to escape from my heart. And not just that, Mad Bhakti Pash Drida Bandhana Nischalasan. Yeah. Karagrahe Vasa Sada Hritaye Madiye Mad Bhakti Pash Dridha Bandha Nischalasan. Twam Krishna he pralaya koti satantarepi sarvasya chor hridayan nahi mochiyami. No matter how much you endeavor, you will not be able to escape, because I will just uh, entangle you, and I'll make this noose of devotion so tight within my heart that you will just not be able to escape from my own heart. So now, upon hearing this beautiful composition, Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur is concluding here that I will keep you within my heart for a very, very long period of time, millions of eons. Pralaya Koti Shatantarepi is saying. So the irony here, we'll just conclude here, that the irony here that Krishna actually is already present within the hearts of everyone. The Gita describes that how he is present as the super soul, as the Parama Atma before within the hearts of everyone. But still, just because we are unaware of that presence of Krishna within our own hearts, because we are not dependent upon the Supreme Lord in every situation of our life, that goes to show that even though it is present, but Krishna is sort of absent from the heart. And through this beautiful composition, we find that how the author is actually glorifying the Supreme as a thief, and he is trying to encourage us, he's trying to teach us that how the mission of our lives should be to catch Krishna through the rope of our devotion and to bind him and keep him ever bound up within the deep core of our own hearts. So, just to summarize all that we discussed today, we started by discussing about the Purushottam Maas, how this month comes in. Then we discussed the principle of glorifying Krishna, the dissatisfaction of Vyasdev, because Vyasdev hadn't glorified the Supreme Lord in an exclusive manner. Therefore, he was feeling dissatisfied. We discussed the pastime of Yudhishthir Maharaj performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, and we described how Krishna is known as Uttama Shloka, the different glorifications of the Lord in the Srimad Bhagavatam, by the different compositions of the Acharya. And thereafter we discussed about the Chauragra Ganya Purushottam, or the Chaurashtakam, where Krishna is glorified as a thief. And we began with his profile, how Krishna, he he stole butter, he stole the clothes of the gopis, the heart of Srimati Radharani, and he also steals the sense of his surrendered devotees. We discuss the expertise, that how he turns his clients into beggars, his devotees, he berefts his devotees from all the material attachments, from the material desires. He can cut even the Yamaraja's ropes, he can cut the rope of materialism, and further the action plan that the poet is wanting to catch Krishna through the knots of devotion, which he is unable to cut, and tie him hard with those ropes, and finally keep within the prison of the heart and tighten the noose of devotion. So this is the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord, which is glorified once again by different devotees in very different ways. And if and only if we manage to focus ourselves in glorifying the Supreme Lord in such exemplary ways, I think that is the success of our own lives. With those words, I think we'll end up here. Thank you all very much for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you and share this beautiful narration, this beautiful piece of composition by Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur. Jai Sri Chaurashtakam ki Jai, Jai Sri Bilva Mangal Thakur ki Jai, Jai Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for your presence here.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you for enlightening us how we can, maybe in some lifetime we can tie him up, but the process can begin this month and this very moment. Or get tied by him. Thank you very much.